Okay, our first example, find an equation of the line with slope 7 and containing the point -1, -5. So one thing that we're going to do pretty consistently if we see this phrase, find an equation of the line or write the equation of the line or something like that, we're going to start with what's called the point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, and then there's only three things in that we're going to replace. First off, the y1, the m, and the x1. And I'm going to write this and circle those for every single one of these problems here. So first off, gonna leave the y and gonna leave the x parts alone, just replacing y1 and x1. We're given a point here, the -1, -5, that's going to be our x, and our y there. And since that's our only pair of points, we're going to let those be x1 and y1. So if we go ahead and replace y1, y1 was -5. We're subtracting y1, so we're subtracting -5. M is the slope. So since we're told that the slope is 7, we can go ahead and plug that in for m. Then we're going to subtract x1. Since x1 is -1, we're going to subtract -1. And remember, anytime you subtract a negative, that just changes to plus. So continuing down on the next step, those two minuses in between the y and the 5 change to a plus. And then so did these two minuses here in between the x and the 1. So change that to a plus, and we'll go ahead and distribute the 7. 7 times x and 7 times +1. And then all we've got to do is get that y by itself. So last step is just to subtract 5. And that is it. Okay, our second example, find an equation of the line having the given slope and containing the given point, m equals 0, and it goes through 0, 9. There are different ways to do some of these problems, but I'm going to stay consistent. We're given that phrase, find an equation of the line again. And again, I'm going to start with y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Again, replacing y1, m, and x1. So I'm going to go back up here. The point that we're given is 0, 9. It's always x and then y. Let that be x1 and y1, since that's our only pair there. And let me erase. Okay, so y minus y1, which was 9, so subtracting y1, equals m, which in this case they tell us is 0, x minus, and we're replacing x1 with 0. So we've got y minus 9 on the left, distribute the 0. 0 times x is 0, 0 times 0 is 0. So everything over there just ends up being 0. And then our last step is to get the y by itself, so we're going to add 9. And that is it. Okay, for our third example, find an equation of the line containing the given pair of points, -6, 0, and 0, 5. So again, find an equation of the line. So I'm going to start here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, and then just replacing those two things, or those three things rather. So our y1 and x1, we can go ahead and label this first point x1, y1, and we can label the second point x2, y2. And by the way, those aren't square. That's just x in the second pair and y in the second pair. One thing that's different about this is we aren't given m like we were on the previous examples. But when we're given 2 points like this, 2 ordered pairs, the negative 6, 0 and the 0, 5, we can use the slope formula. To figure out what m is. So we've got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So as long as I've got those ordered pairs labeled, I can just plug that into the slope formula. y2 is 5, and we're subtracting y1, which is 0, over x2, which was 0, minus x1. And remember, we're subtracting whatever x1 is, so we're subtracting negative 6. So on top, 5 minus 0. And remember, on bottom, those two minuses make a plus. So basically 0 plus 6. So 0 plus 6 is 6. So 5/6 ends up being our m. So I'm going to go ahead and plug these things up back in our formula. And let me draw a dividing line here. So we've got y minus y1, which was 0, equals m, which we now know is 5/6. X minus x1 and then I'm going to change these two minuses to a plus. On the left, we've got y equals, since y minus 0, we don't need the 0 part anymore. And I'm going to distribute the 5/6. So 5/6 times x, 5/6 times 6. 5/6 times x ends up being 5/6 x. And then 5/6 times 6, essentially 6 over 1. If you multiply straight across, you get 5 times 6 on top. And I'll go ahead and show this. 30. And then on bottom, 6 times the 1. You get 6, and that does reduce a bit. 5/6 x plus 30 divided by 6, which is just 5. And since we've got the y all by itself, that is our equation of the line. Example 4, write an equation of the line containing the given point and parallel to the given line. 9, negative 7, that's our given point. And then 9x minus 2y equals 7. So again, we've got write an equation of the line or find an equation of the line. Any phrasing like that, you're going to start with y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we are given a y1 and the x1. We're told that it goes through that given point. So x, y, and that's our first pair. y1, so we're subtracting y1. M, we're not given m yet, and I'll show you how to find that in just a second. So I'll go ahead and leave the m spot blank. X minus x1, which is 9. Okay, so one important thing here is this word parallel. We're told it's parallel to the given line. This is our given line, y or 9x minus 2y equals 7. So if it's parallel, then it means it has the same slope. Whatever the slope of that 9x minus 2y equals 7 is, whatever the slope of that is, our slope will be the same thing. Our m will be the same thing. So the only thing that we'll need to do, since the y is not by itself, we've just got to rearrange that equation so that rearrange this equation so that the y is all by itself. So if we go ahead and do that, 9x minus 2y equals 7. We'll just do a little bit of work to get y by itself. So we'll subtract the 9x on both sides. So we've got negative 2y equals, I'm going to put the negative 9x first in front of the 7. And then divide by negative 2 on both sides. So we get y equals, the negative 9 over the negative 2 just becomes positive. So we got 9 over 2x, and then 7 over negative 2 is negative 7 over 2. So we've got a new equation there, but the only part that we're really concerned about is the slope, because again, we have the same slope. Now that we've got y by itself, we can see that the slope is 9/2. So our slope, since they're parallel, is also 9/2. And that's all we needed from that. Now we can kind of dismiss all that and then continue with our equation here on the left. Y plus 7 equals 9/2 times x. And then 9/2 times negative 9. So that's going to be negative 81 over 2. And then our last step is just to get that y by itself. So we're going to subtract 7. Put a line. There's a couple different ways to do this. So on the left, we've got y equals 9/2 x. And you might want to do a little bit of scratch work and determine what that would be with the denominator of 2. It's going to be negative 14 over 2. Hopefully you're okay getting common denominators with these two fractions here. So negative 81 and negative 14. By the way, this is the same as negative 7. So negative 14 over 2, negative 81 over 2 ends up being negative 95 over 2. Our last example, write an equation of the line containing the given point and perpendicular to the given line. So again, write an equation of the line. We are given a y1 and an x1. We're told that it goes through 5 and negative 9, so that's going to be our y1 and our x1. So we go ahead and put that in y minus y1, which is negative 9, subtracting y1. We're not told what m is, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I'll just leave the m part empty. X minus x1, which was 5. So we're told this time that it's perpendicular to the given line. So the given line is the 7x plus 8y equals 5. Perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. Opposite reciprocal. So what that means is if you've got one slope that ends up being something like 5/9, the other one is the opposite sign, so it would be negative, and it would be the reciprocal of 9/5, so you'd flip that and it'd be 9 over 5. The reciprocal of 5/9 is negative 9 over 5. So you would just change the sign, flip the number, and that would be our new slope. So first off, we've got to figure out what the slope of this line is, which means we've got to get y by itself. So our 7x plus 8y equals 5. We're perpendicular to that, so let's get y by itself. So 8y equals negative 7x plus 5. Divide 8, and we get y equals negative 7/8 x plus 5/8. And we're only concerned about this for the slope because we're perpendicular. So if we were told we were parallel to this, our slope would be negative 7/8. But we're told that we're perpendicular, so we've got to flip that, which is 8/7, and we'll have the opposite sign. So since that slope was negative, our slope is positive 8/7. Okay, so we're done with all that on the right now. And just going to continue with the equation on the left. Y plus 9 equals 8/7 times x. And then 8/7 times negative 5 is going to be negative 40 over 7. Then we want to get the y by itself, so we're going to subtract 9. We got y on the left equals 8/7 x. And we do want to put these two together just like we did the last problem, which means that we need a common denominator, which between these two is going to be 7. The 9 then would become negative 63 over 7. So we've got negative 40 and negative 63. This is going to be negative 103 over 7.